Hi everyone and welcome back. We are at the 5th Sunday dinner of the 52 Sunday dinner projects. If this is your first time here, my name is Ashley. I'm a registered dietitian and I have a love for everything vintage and food. That's brought me here to this. This is the 52 Sunday Dinners project. If you'd like to know a little bit more about what the purpose and mission of this whole project is, go ahead and refer back to week 1. I give a little bit of a more thorough explanation there. And if you'd like to join the conversation with us, you can join our Facebook group, which will be linked in the description below. Here's what we're having for dinner today. We're starting with a cream of pea soup. Then for our main course, we're having a cold roast leg of lamb with heated gravy. Then on the side, we'll have mashed potatoes, mashed yellow turnips, tomato sauce, celery, cucumber pickles, which we are skipping, and I explained why, I think in last week or the week before's dinner. And then for dessert, we'll have apple tapioca pudding with whipped cream and coffee. Join me in the kitchen and let's see how this dinner turns out. We have our leg of lamb here, and I got this one from Aldi, and I may have mentioned before, maybe a month ago, I started seeing all sorts of lamb pop up in my grocery stores after I had had such a hard time finding it before. So I stocked up. I have several pounds of ground lamb, and then I bought a couple legs at that time. So this recipe doesn't give us instructions really other than to roast it 25 minutes to the pound. I believe this one is a little over 2.5 pounds, and I assume they would have been, I guess, seasoning, marinating, whatever this, if they knew how to roast it. So I have some olive oil here. I have some rosemary, some oregano, some paprika, and if you watch the grape jelly video that we did when I made an attempt at making jelly out of the wild grapes on our property, I also was picking some of the mint that's all over our property. So we dried that after that video. So I'm using the mint from that here, and then also I have some freeze-dried garlic here. So we're just going to rub this down with some olive oil and then put these herbs all over it and spices, and hope that our roasting it for maybe an hour and a half or so will yield us a delicious leg of lamb. My interpretation of tapioca that does not need soaking is instant tapioca, so this is what we're going with. Hopefully that's correct. We're going to find out. I have cut this recipe in half because we aren't going to be home a lot this week after making this, and so I don't want it to go to waste. So hopefully I have a feeling this will be delicious. I just don't think we'll be able to eat the full recipe in my house before we have to go. Now, as we discussed before when we talked about things cooking clear, and I think it might have been with gelatin before, where I was like, I don't think this is gonna get clear. And several of you pointed out it wasn't that the mixture was clear, it was that the gelatin or whatever part of it should be clear. And so looking here, it looks like the tapioca beads are clear now. So we're going to go ahead and add our egg. I am also a little, I guess, not confused, just I would assume if we're beating eggs, they would want us to just beat the egg white and not the yolk with it. And looking at the back of this minute tapioca instructions, it instructed that you cook the yolk with the milk mixture and you beat the egg whites with the sugar and then combine them. So I'm wondering if that's what we were supposed to do here, or if that is just different instructions for a different type of recipe. But just always interesting thought process going on during this whole thing, and interesting to see how it turns out and what everyone's opinions are based on their experiences of how something should have been done or how it could be improved upon. I believe we made this recipe before, and when we made it before, several people pointed out that the can would have been a home canned jar of peas, and it would have been a quart. And so we're only going to use one can, like tin can, and we are going to cut this in half. Our milk is nice and creamy and thick, and I am going to just run this straight through into, when I strain it, straight through into the milk. I think we've done it in bowls and things before, but I figured why not save a step and a dish and just do it directly into here. Maybe this is the wrong move, but we're gonna try it. I'm sure this pea soup will be on the menu again. And if it is messed up this time, then we'll fix it the next time around. Clean this freezer out tonight, this top one. That should be a pretty easy job. Now, I am not certain what they mean here about the juices in the gravy which has been made. I'm not exactly sure what that means. So what I'm going to do is take the drippings and make a gravy out of it and just hope that it makes a decent gravy. But if you know what that means, let us know, because I'm sure this is going to be made in the future, and that way we can get it right next time. The first thing that came to mind when they said to mix it with the made gravy is maybe they meant the tomato sauce as the gravy. I know my family calls marinara tomato red sauce. We call it sauce. My husband's family calls it the gravy. And I know there are other Italian Americans or maybe other nationalities that call tomato sauce gravy, so maybe that's what they mean. Maybe I was supposed to add this in with the tomato sauce. I'm not really sure, but we're gonna go with a gravy this time. And if it's wrong and this recipe comes up again, we'll do it different next time. We are ready to eat, and everything actually was made yesterday. And actually, I guess a few things were made even before that. I'm reusing a few things from week 4's dinner because we filmed that maybe 3 or 4 days ago. So I didn't remake the mashed potatoes, and the whipped cream that we're going to serve with the tapioca pudding is going to be the Bavarian cream that we used before. If you saw last week's video, we talked about how it would be, the Bavarian cream would be a good whipped cream on top of some other desserts. This dessert calls for whipped cream. We're going to use it. So to start, we have our cream of pea soup. And I believe I may have mentioned when we were cooking this that we have made this before. And this time it's just slightly different in that I think we have the ratio of peas correct this time, and the flour that we use to thicken this is a gluten-free flour. It seemed like it was pretty thick, and at this point, I don't remember how thick it was when we made it the first time, but it's a pretty nice and thick soup. And peas, I had planned on reusing the peas from the creamed peas from last week's, but we ended up eating all of the leftovers of that already. So we had to start fresh or canned with a fresh can of peas for this one. And it smells like canned peas. I think I've said this countless times already, and I'll say it again. If you like canned peas, you'll enjoy the smell of this. If you don't, you will not. That's pretty tasty. I added extra of the whole peas in this. I think we said last time the soup, the flavor was good, but I kind of prefer to actually have the whole peas in my soup instead of just a straight up pureed soup. So adding a few extra of those peas in made this more pleasant for me this time. And so I'd suggest, several of you said the same thing. You didn't like your soups just completely without any lumps or without any texture. So this is better for you. And some of you talked about having dysphagia and some other swallowing difficulties and chewing difficulties. So if that's an issue for you, then just leaving it without the whole peas, pureeing all of them, it'll be perfect. But it was good last time. It's great this time. Although I can eat all the foods here, I do have a second off-camera opinion. The off-camera opinion is that they like the soup, the flavor is good, they're enjoying the texture, it's seasoned well. They definitely would prefer this to be a hot or warm soup compared to a cold one, but overall pretty good. Now let's try the lamb, and I want to show you. I'm not sure if I showed a shot of it post-roasted, but that is what it looks like. Now I'm a little unsure of how we are supposed to serve the lamb, in that it's cold lamb with hot gravy, and then the tomato sauce also said it's supposed to be a sauce for the gravy. So I don't know if I'm supposed to mix them, if I'm supposed to do one or the other, if it's a little bit of gravy, a little bit of sauce. So we're gonna try it with the sauce and with the gravy. Oh. The gravy smells nice. It smells like a lamb gravy. And I think we may have talked before about this. I don't dislike lamb, and I don't have a problem with lamb. It's just not something that we eat often and that I've acquired a taste for at this point in my life yet. I want to like it a lot more, and I'm hoping that as we finish up this project, I think lamb will be on there a few more times. Maybe the more I eat it, the more I'll start enjoying it. But let's try it. I can't say that I've ever had it cold before, so I'm gonna try it cold with this hot gravy. I'm hoping the spices that I used are, I guess, complementary to lamb. It smells a lot like lamb. The gravy and the lamb smell similar, which makes sense because the gravy is from the lamb juice. Now, I don't know if the gravy is supposed to add flavor or just moisture to it. They seem to blend pretty well in flavor, the gravy and the lamb, and it's good. It's, again, not something that I'm used to yet. I don't have a strong feeling for or against it, but if I was somebody who liked lamb, I think this would be wonderful. Let's try it with the tomato sauce. I think this will definitely be much more of a contrast than with just the gravy. So far, I like the tomato sauce as an option on the plate just because we had a little bit of green, but it's kind of like a muted, not ugly, because I like that color, but just not a very vibrant, a very dull green in the soup. And the colors of this plate are not very bright. It's a very brown and white plate, not a lot of color. So adding this tomato sauce, I think, really perks up the plate. Oh, I got a little tomatoes. And it smells good. It smells very strong, very acidic. It's either the bite I just took, because I think there was a little more fat in that bite, or I think that the tomato actually brings the flavor of the lamb out, for me at least, more than what the gravy, which tastes just like the lamb, did. I felt a stronger lamb flavor with this competing tomato than I did with the gravy, which is, I think, an interesting observation. You see, with a little bit of both. A little bit of both of them. Yeah, I didn't notice much difference in the gravy and the sauce compared to just the sauce, and I think that the sauce brings out that lamb flavor much more. Now, we already know what the potatoes taste like, but let's go for it anyway. They're good. They're nice and potatoey. And the turnips, I mashed them this time. And if you've ever mashed turnips, you know they're still a little bit chunky. They don't mash as nice and smoothly as a potato, but it smells really good. It smells, there's like a spice to it or a sharpness to them. And they're really good. I think they're both really good on their own, but they're even better mixed together. So if you're going to be making mashed potatoes for something, or you want something just to elevate it a little bit, put some mashed turnips into your mashed potatoes. It's delicious. My off-camera opinion of this main portion of the meal, they really liked the turnips. They really liked the potatoes. They thought the lamb was okay, but they're in the same boat as me. It's not their first choice of meat, but it's not bad. They felt that it would be better heated than cold, and in fact, they did heat it up, and they said it's much better warm than it is cold. They liked the gravy on the potatoes and on the turnips, but felt that the tomato was much better on the lamb. Our salad course is not so much a salad as it is a couple, I guess, individual pieces. There's celery as a palate cleanser. And I talked before about how I didn't make the cucumber pickles because I'm not a big fan of sweet pickles and I didn't want to waste all of that recipe. And I don't know too many people who like sweet pickles, so we wouldn't even be able to give them away. However, in our fridge, our sweet friends Ken and Elena, who got us the veal from Tom Friday's meat market, several, my gosh, maybe a couple months back in recipes. They also brought us these Pittsburgh pickles, and they are a little bit sweet, so I think that they will match this recipe or this menu pretty well. And I also, look at how cute this little celery pick is. Let's go with celery. I know that you know that I know what celery tastes like, but we're going to go for it anyway. It's a very nice palate cleanser. And these pickles, although they are a little bit sweet, they also have a good bit of dill and a little bit of kick in there, so they're also pretty delicious. I like the green color of our palate cleanser, our salad course here, adding a little bit. It kind of reminds me almost of maybe like a subtle Christmas meal because everything is kind of neutral colored, and then we have a little bit of green and a little bit of red there. But yes, now we are ready to try the dessert, which is what we've really been looking forward to. This is what it looked like coming out. I can't say it's beautiful, but I have a feeling it's going to taste wonderful. So let's scoop into it, and you can see the apples on the bottom. It's tapioca and egg, custard kind of stuff on the top. This is the one that I've been most excited about, and you know, we cut this recipe in half because I didn't want to have too many leftovers, and I have a feeling after I try it, I'm going to regret that and wish we would have made double, because I'm sure I'm going to want to share this with friends or neighbors and also have seconds or fifths of it. It smells stronger of lemon than apple, I think, which makes sense because we put lemon extract in there, but I can smell the apple. I'm going to try it without the whipped cream and then with. That's a very interesting texture. The apples, I think, cooked down, and when you saw earlier in the video, they kind of disintegrated and made almost an apple foam in there. and the topping is also foamy. So it's kind of light and foamy, but still wet and dense at the same time. It looks like there's more tapioca here than in the first bite that I got. I want to get a bite with more tapioca. I can feel the tapioca in there, but not as much as I expected. I expected the tapioca to be a little bit more prominent, and it almost, I think, is an afterthought, or it is not the shining star of this. It's really just kind of subtly through there. And I certainly taste lemon, which I love, more than I do apple or anything else in here. The whipped cream, Bavarian cream, is very good with that. I think normally several of the other desserts I've said they really don't need a whipped cream to add to it. I think it's perfectly fine on its own, but this, I think that the whipped cream complements it for me much better than it is on its own. Maybe I need to do a little bit of adjustment to this, and maybe the minute tapioca wasn't the right tapioca. I think the idea of this and my expectation of it was higher than what the end result is. It is not bad. It's good. It's just not as good as what I expected it to be. It did not meet my expectations, and I thought it was going to exceed my expectations. So overall, if you had no expectations of this going in and you thought, ooh, that sounds weird, I don't know if I'll like that, you would probably be very excited and think it was great. If you went in thinking this is going to be amazing, you might be a little tiny bit disappointed, but overall, I still think it's a winner and it's pretty good. Off-camera opinion felt that this was very good. They liked the flavor, they loved the texture, they agreed it was very light, kind of airy, foamy. They said that they were thinking while they were eating it, it would be a really good dessert if you had to go and bring something to a dinner and it was your job to bring dessert. This would be a great option to bring, and they felt it would be very well received. And that the rest of the leftovers, they will eat the rest of the leftovers, and offered to split them with me if I wanted to, but if I didn't, they would eat all of them on their own. So I think that speaks for itself right there. Overall, I felt this meal was pretty good. I think everything complemented each other very well. I think that there was a decent variety. I like the differences in temperature of things. There were some things served hot, some things served cold. Something else I really liked about this menu compared to maybe last week's is what kind of leads into, I guess, the nutrition portion, in that there were a lot more vegetables this time. And we started out with a pea soup, so you have a nice starchy vegetable there. We had potatoes and turnips. We had a tomato sauce. We had celery. We had pickles. And then for our fruit, there was apples in the pudding at the end of the meal. And at this point in time, in the beginning, I think this is the first week of February's menu, and so I think some of the produce would have been hard to come by. So the fact that they included so many different fruits and vegetables in this, I think, was definitely a win. I like the lamb as the protein choice. With the seasonality of this menu, I think this is a win nutrition-wise as well. Budget-wise, it wasn't terrible. Our lamb was a little more than maybe a standard chicken or beef cut. I think our 2.5 pound lamb leg was maybe $17, a little over $17. For this meal, for 6 people, we're looking at around $75 for the entire meal. And anybody, I've had the question a couple times, like, could you go back and look at what the prices were in the 1920s and give a comparison? And I certainly could do that. I think the information out there is available. I think just with, I'm the only one here on my team doing this. I have some help in the background. Tori comes and helps, and I have some behind the camera help with dishes and things like that and opinions. But overall, with the editing and the shooting and the shopping and everything, it's just me here. And so if at some point this channel starts making money and we can hire an editor, yes, I will add things like that in. But at this point in time, I think adding one more thing to the list just isn't feasible for me at the moment. But if anybody else is very interested in doing it and wants to calculate what the price would have been in 1920, I would not be opposed or offended if you decided to post that in the comments or in the Facebook group or anything like that. I would be ecstatic. I'm not asking anybody to do that, but if there is an interest there and somebody wants to do it, you are certainly welcome to. If you like what you saw this week, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss any of the future episodes as we move along into the rest of this 52 Sunday dinners. Next week will be a bit of a departure. I have some friends that are willing to be on camera and trying some of this food with me, and I'm going to be traveling to them. So join me next week where we find a mystery chef in a mystery kitchen. Bye. Yes. Ooh, tell the story about feeding Chinese eggplant.
Oh.
To Grams.
Well, yes, my mother-in-law had, she didn't try any foods. It was what she was used to for when she was young. And so she didn't like eggplant. She didn't. One day for her birthday, I made ravioli for, my own from start. And I didn't know she didn't like spinach, and it was for her birthday. And I put all this work into it. And she walked in the house and she looked. She said, "What's that green stuff?" And I said, "It's spinach." Well, it was useless. She ate one to be, polite. But I had made them special and it just didn't go over well. But my children, knew what their grandmother, she didn't want pumpkin, she didn't want zucchini, and she hated eggplant. So one day they went to the local grocery store and they bought marinated eggplant. And they told their grandmother that they were Chinese pickles. And she ate them and ate them. And, oh, this is so good. And, nobody told her. She went to the grocery store and she saw them there. And she said, "I'd like some Chinese pickles." And, of course, the clerk said, "Well, those are eggplant." And she wouldn't buy them and she didn't like them. wouldn't.
Really?
Oh, yeah,
After
really.
she ate all of them?
After she ate all of them. She heard it was eggplant and she would not eat it.
Oh, did she yell it?
Oh, yeah. Noise? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And us, too, because we went along with the whole joke.
But
it's great. It was a famous story. We always teased her about it.